When you picture ancient Sparta, I bet you're thinking of an unstoppable army, right? These perfect, disciplined warriors, a state built for nothing but military supremacy. That's the legend. But behind that legend, behind that iron armor, there were these deep structural cracks that were getting ready to shatter the whole thing. So, here's the question. Was Sparta really that perfect warrior state? Or was it, from the very beginning, just a ticking time bomb? We're going to get into this because, believe it or not, one of the greatest minds in history, Aristotle, basically performed an autopsy on the entire Spartan system. And what he found, well, it changes the whole story. You see, for centuries, people saw Sparta through what we now call the Spartan mirage. This was this perfect, idealized picture, mostly painted by writers like Xenophon, who were looking at Sparta when it was at the absolute peak of its power. To them, it was flawless. Total discipline, perfect unity, unshakable virtue. I mean, for a guy like Xenophon, everything about Sparta, its brutal training, its rigid social structure, it was all just part of a brilliant machine designed to crank out the toughest, most loyal citizens imaginable. In his eyes, the system just worked. But, as you can imagine, not everyone saw it that way. Okay, now let's bring in Aristotle. He was writing decades after Sparta's empire had already crumbled, so he had the huge advantage of hindsight. He wasn't some fanboy looking at a success story. He was a political analyst trying to figure out where it all went wrong. And the picture he painted, it was the complete opposite of that shiny mirage. And this is so key to understanding what he was doing. He wasn't writing a history book. You have to think of him more like a doctor performing an autopsy on a dead state, trying to find the exact cause of death. He was looking for the fatal flaws in its DNA. So what was his first diagnosis? A cancer right at the political heart of Sparta, the ephorate. The ephors were these 5 officials, the most powerful men in the state. But according to Aristotle, this institution had rotted from the inside out and become a corrupt tyranny. And he gets really specific. He says that because pretty much any citizen, even the really poor ones, could get elected as an ephor, it made them super easy to bribe. He even points to a specific scandal, the Andrian affair, where he says bribery got so bad it nearly destroyed the entire city. So this wasn't just some abstract theory. He was pointing to real corruption. All right, next, Aristotle turns his attention to one of Sparta's most iconic institutions, the Syssitia. These were the daily communal dinners where all the Spartan men had to eat together. On the surface, this looks like the ultimate symbol of Spartan equality, right? Of brotherhood. But once again, Aristotle cuts right through that mirage. While Xenophon was celebrating the Syssitia for creating this amazing bond between soldiers, Aristotle saw that it was actually doing the exact opposite. It was a machine for creating deep, painful inequality. And here's the killer detail he points out. See, every citizen had to contribute a certain amount of food and wine from his own farm to the communal meal. If you fell on hard times and couldn't pay your share, you were kicked out. And get this, getting kicked out of the Syssitia meant you lost your rights as a citizen. It was over. So this thing that was supposed to create unity was actually stripping people of their citizenship and creating a whole new underclass. But maybe Aristotle's most shocking claim, the one he points to as a primary reason for Sparta's entire collapse, had to do with something most people weren't even looking at, the economic power held by Spartan women. He just drops this bombshell of a statistic, 2/5. That's 40%. Aristotle claimed that women owned 2/5 of all the land in Sparta. Let that sink in for a second. Now, to us, hearing that, it might sound kind of progressive, you know? But for Aristotle, who came from Athens where women were kept almost entirely out of public life, this was a sign of total, catastrophic system failure. He thought the lawgiver had made a huge mistake by not applying the same iron discipline to women that he applied to men. And he lays out this absolutely brilliant chain reaction. It all starts with women controlling a huge chunk of the land. Because of inheritance laws and dowries, that land gets concentrated into fewer and fewer wealthy families. Well, with land concentrated like that, fewer men can actually afford to qualify for citizenship or even raise sons. This leads to what's called oliganthropia, a population collapse. And the final, fatal result, Sparta's legendary army shrinks until it is just too small and too weak to defend itself. So, when you put it all together, the corrupt officials, the social clubs that kicked out the poor, and this ticking time bomb of female land ownership, Aristotle gives us this blueprint for collapse. He shows us a state that wasn't perfect at all,
but one that was structurally designed to fail from the inside out. And this quote right here, this is his final, absolutely devastating verdict. It just shatters the whole Spartan mirage. He's saying they were masters of one thing and one thing only, making war. But the second they won and had to actually govern, had to live in peace, they had no idea what to do. And that reveals the ultimate paradox, doesn't it? Sparta's all-consuming focus on the military was the very thing that doomed it. All that discipline, all that training, it made them incredibly strong in one area, but it also made them unbelievably brittle. They could fight, but they couldn't govern, they couldn't adapt, and they certainly couldn't manage peace. Which leaves us with this one big question to chew on. Was Sparta's greatest strength, that incredible military machine that made them legends, was that also its fatal genetic flaw? If you follow Aristotle's autopsy, the answer is a clear and simple yes. The very thing that made them so strong was the very thing that made them fall.